How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Rowlett, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at some Pokemon rumors, leaks, all that kind of stuff, so let's get started. First things first, going to be this post right here on Twitter. It was made by Pokemon Memo, which is this account that's been around for quite a long time. I've followed it. They follow a lot of people too. But basically, they tweeted out saying in Japanese, and we translated this, but it said Pokemon Legends ZA will be released after February 2025, so development is apparently slower than Arceus. Again, these guys are not necessarily a source. I don't think they actually have a genuine, like place they have information from, like an actual source they use, and that is confirmed here by Pokisutami. It's just a lot of people sent this my way and said, hey, this confirms that, it's coming out late next year. There's no confirmation for that just yet. As Pokisutami says, a lot of people are misunderstanding this as Pokemon ZA will be released in February. What this tweet is saying is that the game is going to be released sometime after February, which we already know, which, yeah, that is true. It's important to note that this account is not related officially to Nintendo and Game Freak, as is instead a news and speculation account. In the actual linked article, they even mention coup, something which would not be allowed if there was any official relationship. So this tweet is not an official confirmation. It's a good source of seeing what's going on in in the Japanese fan community as far as speculation and news are going. So even the Japanese side of the Pokemon community, I guess in Japan, are also, kind of bored, but also aware of somebody like Ku, who has done leaks. They even call him here. This time, Ku, a well-known overseas leaker, has made a few comments about the release date of this work. According to this, the release date of Pokemon Legends ZA will be later than the Nintendo Switch Pokemon Legends Arceus, which, yeah, of course, came out in January of was it 2022? I think 2022. Man, it was 2022. Jeez, my mind is like all empty now. But yeah, so just an FYI on this, that if you see this and you assume this is like some sort of confirmation, just know that it isn't. It's just a kind of a speculative post by a, speculation account, more or less. So don't take it as being true. Though sometimes this account is weird, because I've seen versions of this account when it's posted stuff where the information has been pretty on point. But again, it's just a, a fan account, so it's not an official, Nintendo endorsed or Pokemon endorsed or Game Freak endorsed, actual account or anything like that. So yeah, shout out to Pokisutami, by the way, for actually sharing this. Really just appreciate that. Moving on, though, we have two things to talk about. First up is this post here from Light, who says, new PLZA leak, as always a grain of salt. 14 new megas plus all previous ones back, 3 regional forms and legendary forms. And basically, it's a big post here with a picture of kind of like, this house kind of looks like one I've seen. If you guys have ever been to Milan in Italy, it kind of looks like one of the houses there in this one like specific area where it's like all green, like it's like green and lush all over it. But basically, here's what they're saying. So he says ready, and this was posted by someone else over on 4chan, saying ready. So total of 12 traversable areas, 5 sectors, 5 outskirts, center of the map, which is the main area, and a forest area, which is the final area of the game. So apparently he's saying that there's going to be 12 areas or zones that you're going to be able to go through and explore within this, game, Legends ZA. But again, we'll have to wait and see if that actually ends up being true. He continues on saying that waterways, sewer systems, skydeck areas are all accessible within each sector. So apparently waterways, so different sorts of waterways, I guess rivers, really any sort of water, like, I guess rivers, geez, what else would it be? Because, like, I can't think of other words. Lakes, I guess. Rivers, lakes, small streams of water, anything like that. Sewer system, which I guess would be anything that goes through the underground in any sense, apparently would be explorable, which we've already seen kind of a little bit of a hint of that in the trailer, the original trailer. Skydeck area is also accessible, so sky battles, I guess, with each sector. Now, Pokemon are everywhere, okay? That's good to know. Most are found in outskirts, but more species populate within sectors once construction is completed. So I guess as you progress through the game, sectors would increase in, building, they would get improved, they would get stuff added to them, and the more that's added to them, the more Pokemon will actually populate those areas, which makes sense. It's a logical kind of way of doing it, I'm not going to lie. It is a logical way of going about it. So, personally, sounds fine to me. Not gonna lie. Sounds totally fine. Now, main goal is to complete the construction of Lumiose City. Each sector has a boss Pokemon who will try to prevent the construction. You need to gather resources from the outskirts and obtain a specific amount of Pokemon to advance. Okay, interesting. Do you need to battle them? Because he says, like, you need to gather resources from the outskirts and obtain a certain amount of Pokemon to advance. So, I guess that's fair enough. Boss Pokemon you see as a threat and do not want the city. Wait, the boss Pokemon see you as a threat and do not want the city built, which is fair. I guess that makes sense. Humans do tend to ruin Pokemon habitats sometimes, you know, as we've seen in other Pokemon, you know, media and games. So that's fair enough. Moving on, though, he says that boss Pokemon don't treat you as a threat. During this time, Pokemon and humans did not coexist yet. Part of the game's story involves earning the boss Pokemon's trust to advance development. Pokemon start to appear in the city once the trust is earned. Beautiful storyline, apparently. Okay, I mean, not battling them is weird, because you would expect in a game like Pokemon, battling is usually one of the highlights or important things. You would expect us to be battling to get it, you know what I mean? Like, you would expect that to be the case, but I digress. It is what it is. Going on, though, they say leader of the development does not like Pokemon, which is okay, fair enough. Apparently clashes often with a leader from another organization that's trying to bridge the gap between people and Pokemon, or Pokemon and people. This is where you obtain the Pokedex and tasks involving Pokemon. Because remember, in Legends Arceus, we had that whole, like, you know, to complete the Pokedex and everything, you needed to sort of, you know, observe the Pokemon in the wild, and you had, like, the whole, you know, written Pokedex you were creating. Because you're basically part of creating the Pokedex, right? Sort of. And I guess, like, here would be something similar, or a little bit different. We'll see. And tasks involving Pokemon. Okay, so catching, photographing, and battling would be all those. Then saying that Mega Evolution is available about 1/3 of the way through the story, but you have a stone from the beginning that comes with your chosen starter. So Mega Evolution wouldn't be in the beginning, but 1/3 through, which sounds about right. That sounds like a reasonable length of time before you introduce it. But you do have a Mega Stone, apparently, for your chosen starter already from the start. All previous Megas return with 14 new ones. Okay, so Megas returning, all the old ones are returning, and 14 new ones. He doesn't list which ones, though, which is weird. And apparently 3 regional variants of previous Pokemon, which is fine. Apparently the Cafe, Street, and Sky Deck are, and Waterside battles for trainers is where, I guess, or rather, the Cafe, Street, and Sky Deck, as well as the Waterside, is where you get battles for trainers. If you want to do trainer battles against actual, you know, NPCs, you're going to have to go there, as opposed to just, you know, finding them everywhere. Then apparently final area is massive, which is the forest, which he mentioned at the top here, right? Says the forest is very fairy tale-like, and the atmosphere is very fairy tale-like, I guess, as well. Continuing, saying no new legendary, apparently new forms instead. Okay. That's fair. That's reasonable. Sort of Mega Evolution, but without stone and different, more dramatic form change effect. Well, he doesn't list what Pokemon gets it, though. Is it like the three legendaries, like the 3 ones we know, Yveltal, Xerneas, and Zygarde? Is it those 3? Because that's the only thing I can think of. If it's those 3, fair enough. If it's not them, then what is it, right? Like, what else would it be? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Again, no clue. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, guys, because honestly, I'm not sure. As for this rumor, though, it's neat. It doesn't go too into detail, so even if, like, stuff in here, like, let's say when we do get our next trailer, which, by the way, guys, if you're waiting for the trailer, most likely the trailer should be in August. Let's see. Pokemon, let's just look this up. Pokemon Presents, right? Pokemon Presents. So if you look up the list of every Pokemon Presents that's ever happened, I've spoken about this many times in videos, but if you look up every Pokemon Presents that's ever happened, starting from here, right? So basically, since 2021, right? So literally for the last 3 or so years, and I'll move my camera on the side here. So if you guys can't see it, basically, for the last, like, 3 or so years, starting until 2021, we have had a Pokemon Presents always in February for Pokemon Day, and always one in August, just, you know, close to the Pokemon World Championship. So guess what? 2021, February 26th, 2021, August 18th, right? So February and August. Then the next year in 2022, February, again, Pokemon Day, and August, again, for Pokemon World Championship time. Then same thing here. In February of 2023, we had the Pokemon Day celebration. And what did we have, you know, in August? Guess what? Again, August, we had the World Championship and another Pokemon Presents. So literally, February, August, February, August. What have we had this year so far? Well, 27th, Pokemon Day, Pokemon Celebration. February 27th, 2024, we got, of course, Legends ZA revealed. And guess what? In August, we should be getting our next trailer, baby. So next month, we should be getting it in August. It's not long now. We don't have a lot of time left to go. As for when it's going to drop in August, that's a gamble. If you look at previous times they've done it, August, they did it like once they did in the middle of August, so the 18th. In here on the 3rd, they did it on, well, yeah, in the 2022, they did it on the 3rd, and in 2023, they did it on the 8th. So there is a chance they could do it around that time again. like, you know, early into the month, or mid-month I feel like is more likely. And the only reason I think mid-month is more likely, the only reason I think it is mainly because of the fact that, like, we have the World Championship a bit later, I think, as well. That's the only thing that makes me think it's going to be later. That's like the only thing I can think of. But again, it could be earlier as well. Again, I don't know. It's all speculation as of right now anyway, so just keep that in mind. But we do know that there's a presents 100% has to be happening. Otherwise, I don't know what the fuck they're doing or why they would change this, like, existing formula that's been working for them, you know, February, August, February, August, February, August. 3 times in a row, 3 years in a row, they've done that. And if this is the 4th one, then it would make sense. But if they don't, if they change it all of a sudden, it would just be weird. Like, it would just be odd. And even before that, when they did Pokemon Directs before, it used to be a little bit all over the place. But then they kind of figured out a formula that would work for them, right? Even when they started doing presents for the first time, which was actually in 2020, that's when they started doing these presents. The first one was in June, then the second one was in June again, but that was for Pokemon Unite to be revealed. And then starting from after that, it's when the formula started of 2 presents per year, and that's it. That's literally how it started, began, and how it kept going. So I don't know what else they could be doing or changing here for whatever reason. But we're going to leave that at that, and let's move on to another rumor for this video, guys. Now, this one is also from 4chan, as per usual. You guys know where these are always from. But let's take a look at what this one actually has to say, as it's a bit of a... It's a bit of a shorter one. So here's what it says. From Anonymous, posted. And this also, by the way, shout out to John Dex for sharing this to me and sending this my way. Thank you, my friend. But here's what it says. New leaks for the future of the franchise. Source, the investors meeting. I don't know how you would get this from the investors meeting. But okay, apparently, Generation 10 is going to be the last new generation for some while. The plan is for the next 5 generations to remake the entirety of the series. That would be wild. That would be actually wild if they did that. Oh, God. I don't know if I would like that, to be honest. I don't know if I would like that. Like, new gens are needed for Pokemon of the series up to modern standards with 2 remakes per gen. Working through in order, Generation 11 will be Kanto and Johto, 12 will be Hoenn and Sinnoh, 13 Unova and Kalos, 14 Alola and Galar, and 15 Paldea, and the as of yet unnamed Gen 10 region. Brother, this would be... What? Remakes will not be compatible with pre-existing games, cannot transfer mons from games before Gen 11. Most are going to be fairly faithful remakes, albeit with altered maps and perspectives in line with the fully 3D games. Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, I guess. Most are going to be fairly faithful remakes. Okay, so... Okay, first of all, let's... Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to read this full rumor first, and then I'm going to go through and give my points. Exception was Unova. Game Freak considers it a bit of a blot on their copybook and intend to completely redo the region using existing characters and Pokemon, but with much more traditional story. Okay, that's what? Okay, fine, whatever, fine. Depending on performances of ZA, they may introduce Megas as a standard feature in all games going forward. That would be fucking sick. Okay, that would be sick. That would be so cool. That would be so good. Please do that. Everybody would like that. Everybody would like that. Please do that. But geez, okay, let's see. Mega's a standard feature for all games going forward. If it does poorly, they're going with the Dynamax instead. Please don't. Oh, God, I do not want Dynamax, man. I do not like that feature at all. Please don't. Generation... Dude, Dynamax is so stupid. I'm sorry. Please don't. Generation 10 is going to be based on South America. Okay, so it's not a named region yet, but apparently it's going to be based... Okay, fine. Whatever. One reason for this is desire to tie up loose ends in the current canon. Pokemon has never cared about canon. I'm sorry, but that makes no sense. Okay, sorry. Pokemon does not care about canon. Pokemon has never cared about canon. Pokemon will never care about canon. Do they use lore in Pokemon? Do they try to make some kind of existing story? Sure, there is an existing plotline in Pokemon, but they kind of just throw shit at the wall most of the time. Like, they really do. They just throw shit on the wall. Like, they just... Okay, fine. Let's move on. Jeez. He says, okay, so Gen 10 is based on South America. One reason is the desire to tie up loose ends in the current canon, which includes removing any ambiguity over Pokemon just being the real world. Not many details beyond this. Okay. Apparently, Dex Cut will be removed for Generation 8 and 9 remakes to compensate for new Pokemon being made during this period. Okay. Lore mandates are being pushed heavily. Desire expressed to erase mistakes made in Pokemon's formative years. Okay, this is just... Okay, fine. More family-friendly and simple stories going forward. Elements from old games being revised to comply with with this example, Lavender Town is now a place of to commemorate Pokemon. Top brass of Nintendo resistant to incorporating AI. Game Freak trying to protest this. They feel it would allow for better workflow. In some way, that actually sounds real. That last part, out of everything I've read, everything else sounds, I'm going to be real, pretty shit. But that last part sounds actually realistic. I don't want them to use AI for this. Main reason I don't want them to use AI for this is because that's the thing with Pokemon. It just doesn't need it. Pokemon has always been fun because they can be creative with it. They can just allow artists to go and have fun with it and make something cool. I think AI has a place, you know, within society. Some places, yes. But in terms of this, no. Like, in terms of this, I just don't think it's necessary. I feel like there's no benefit to it. It's just going to make goofy-looking shit. I feel like it's way better just to use the skilled people you have. Japan is filled with skilled people. The rest of the world is filled with skilled artists, creative people. Just use them to your advantage. It's not that fucking expensive. Come on. Seriously, you're already making billions off a Pokemon. It would be ridiculous to have to, like, introduce that. It just seems dumb. But let's go through this actual post again. Because I'm going to be real. The idea of them deciding to not make new generations, it is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And them remaking... So honestly, that's not even the dumbest part. The actual dumbest part is them assuming or saying that they would remake every single game in order. Guys, okay, listen. As much as I know people like nostalgia and shit, and we're all excited for Legends ZA, the reason we're excited for Legends ZA as well is because X and Y was never completed. Like, X and Y never felt complete. And also, it's a Legends game. Why do we like Legends games? Because they do shit a bit differently. Are we technically still in Kalos? Yes. But it's not exactly Kalos. It's still different. It's like saying, like, you know, Hisui and Sinnoh are exactly the same. From a literal perspective, they are, because they're literally the same region, just different names. However, from an actual gameplay perspective, when you walk around the actual region of Hisui, as opposed to doing, you know, Diamond and Pearl Platinum or BDSP with, you know, Sinnoh, is a drastically different experience. This is two different things. They feel different. They look different. Places are in a little bit more scattered locations, and the world looks different because it's an open world map. It's not in a grid-based system. So it would be weird for them to decide to do this instead of just doing the formula that works. Remake a game, just a regular game, just the regular way they've been doing it, like BDSP, like ORAS, like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which are weird, but they still fit in, like Heart Gold Soul Silver, like Fire Red Leaf Green. Like, what's the point of them remaking some of these regions when they're complete? Like, think about it like this way, okay? Let's assume this person is correct here. Let's assume that they're right. They say that basically they're going to be the next generation, so generation 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so on and so forth, will actually just be remake generations. Let's assume this. If they want to remake, they want to do this way, okay? So he says that apparently Gen 10 is going to be the last new generation. Now, let's assume that Generation 10 comes out in 2026, right? Let's just assume that's the case. Let's get this, like, you know what? Let's just get, like, paint up real quick. Let's just assume it like that, okay? Let's assume that we have that scenario, right? So you got, you know, PLZA coming out, right? So PLZA coming out in what? 2025 next year, right? So you have 2025 PLZA. Let's say Gen 10, right? Like, let's say Gen 10 comes out in 2026. So you're now saying that Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way until Generation 10 will be remade. And no new gens will drop for essentially, because if we're assuming one remake per year, because it doesn't state it here, like nowhere in this post does it actually state if it's going to be per year or how, like, you know, it doesn't state that anywhere. It just says that it's going to be 2 remakes per generation. Let's say like this then. Let's say there's a game per year. And let's assume maybe there's occasionally 1 year of, you know, a 1 year miss. So let's say Generation 11 will be in 2020, you know, like, I don't know, like if Gen 10 comes out here, then when would even Gen 11 start? Like, let's say, I don't know, the usual length is like 3 years. So let's say Gen 11 starts 29, right? But that's assuming that there's nothing after Gen 10 besides DLC, which would cover for, you know, 2027 and 2028, you know, or a gap year of 2028. Point standing. So you're saying Gen 11 would be 2029. Gen 12, because if you have 2 games, that means, like, you know, that's going to be for 2020, you know, 2029 and also 2030. So we're starting the next decade off with a Gen 2 remake, right? So that would be Gen 2 remakes, you know, G2 and G1. You'd have Gen 2 and Gen 1. And then on top of that, you then have to, like, at least give another, like, grace period year, which means that in 32, or like 31, I guess. No, 32. Yeah, 32. 2032. You'd have what? Gen 3 remakes all of a sudden, and then you'd have again in maybe like the year after, in 2033, you'd have Gen 4. Which, keep in mind, Gen 4 remakes already had remakes, like, back up here, with BDSP and, that. So, and then Gen 5 and Gen 6, you got Gen 6 and Gen 5, right? Both of these two. Got both of them. Keep in mind, Gen 6 already had PLZA right here. And then you're assuming, let's say that's the 13th generation. That would have, like, what? Let's say another grace year here, like another skip year. So you have, like, 35. Right, like 35 and then 36. Brother, do you guys see what I mean? Like, you go until like 2040 with remakes. I'm sorry, but I don't think people would enjoy that. Like, there's no way I'm losing brain cells trying to like comprehend logic here. This would just make no freaking sense. Like, remakes are supposed to be interspersed to, I guess, keep certain generations going for longer. Like, keep in mind, remakes are there to benefit off of nostalgia because they're easier and cheaper to make. Like, it's easier to remake a game because it's cheaper. You don't have to create a whole set of new designs. You don't have to, hire story artists to invent whole new shit and, whole new stories and direct it in certain ways. The direction is so much easier. Like, it's so much easier to remake a game than it is to make a whole new game. Like, it's just a hands-down reality because you're copying work that you've already made. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much easier. So the logic here doesn't make any sense. Why would you spend the next, like, what? A decade and a half, 2 decades almost? Just remaking, old gens and then calling that new generation. That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Like, listen, has PLA and PLZA added a little bit of that into the mix? Sure. But at the end of the day, new generation games are still the biggest sellers. Like, let's look at the sales of Pokemon. Like, sales of Pokemon games, right? If we look up the sales of Pokemon games, and we look up, like, the general, like, where did they all land in terms of sales and stuff? This might not give us the best of info, but, like, let's look at it like this. And again, these sources can be a little bit outdated at times, but let's just see a general overlook, right? So, if you look at Pokemon games, if you try to look at any of the games that are remakes, you will instantly notice a difference between remake sales versus, and still, keep in mind, the amount of remakes that Pokemon sells is still good. It's perfect. But please remember one important thing. Pokemon sells because it makes new shit. And Pokemon doesn't make money off of the video games. I mean, they do, but not really. Like, video games for Pokemon are in, I guess, business, what's called a loss leader. So, let's see. Let me give you a definition of that. So a loss leader is essentially a product or a service that you sell at a price that is essentially not profitable, but it's sold to attract new customers and then to sell additional products and services to those customers. So basically, think of Pokemon video games as a commercial. Like, Pokemon video games are just glorified commercials for you to buy merch, because Pokemon makes way more money off of you from merchandise. Like, look at the amount of shit behind me here, okay? This makes them way more money than me buying a game every once a year or so. Like, this makes way more cash. Okay, buying like 2 plushies covers the cost of that, and it's cheaper for them to make this plushie than it is for them to actually, like, keep in mind, the development of one of these plushies, like the actual time it takes to develop it, and the cost of it is way less. Way less than it is the cost of actually developing a game. Development of a game is going to be a few million. It's just undeniable. You're going to have to pay a lot of people to work on it for about 3 to 4 years straight, and that's just how it is. And in this case, Pokemon video games are the loss leader in this scenario. The logic is fucking beyond me why they would then decide to be like, hey, let's just remake games for the next 15 years. Like, why? It just makes no sense. Like, keep in mind, look at here, right? Remake games. So, red, green, and blue, 31 million copies. Keep in mind, these are the original Pokemon games, so they're kind of hard to look at as like being like proof of anything, really. But then, like, the remakes here of Fire Red Leaf Green sold 12 million, which is still good. And even Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee sold even more at 15 million. However, if you look at the same thing here, though, Gold and Silver, 23 million. The remakes Heart Gold Soul Silver, 12.7 million, which is insanely good still. But then here, Ruby Sapphire, 16.2 million. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire still undersold compared to him. I mean, still 14.6 million. And keep in mind, by this point, is that you already had a bunch of new fans when this came out in 2014, as opposed to the original in 2002. Because 2002, Ruby and Sapphire was kind of when Pokemon was going a little bit down in sales and performance, because the franchise wasn't as strong as it is even today in comparison. They did Diamond and Pearl, 17 million, and then Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, 15 million. Sure, a lot of money, yes. But here's another thing. You can't have remakes forever, and you can't have remakes without the existence of actual generations, right? The point is, you'd still run out eventually. And then what? You're gonna actually start putting new shit out, and then then you would have to make sure you knew a new generation every year, because you've already remade everything for the last 10 years, 15, 20, I don't know. And then here, Black and White's the only one that doesn't have a remake yet. So, I mean, I guess X and Y too, but with Legends ZA, we should have an example of that soon. But, like, if you look at the new generational games, right? X and Y, 16 million. Sun and Moon, 16 million. Sword and Shield, 26 million. Like, Sword and Shield, I think the best-selling Pokemon games since Red, Green, and Blue, right? So Red and Blue, right? Like, it's the best-selling game since then. And even here, Scarlet and Violet, 25 million copies almost, right? 25 million copies, as opposed to, like, remakes, which average out to about 16 million, 15 million is about the range, I would say. I'd say 15 million is probably, the upper end, whereas, like, the mid-range is probably, let's say, 13 to 14 million on average, right? If you really want to average it out. Point is, do remakes sell? Hell yeah, they do. Do they sell more than mainline new generational games? No, they don't. And the proof of that is the last two generations. Generation 8 and Generation 9 are to combine 50 million sales, right? Like 50 million. To get that same number from the remakes, if we, say F it, and it's kind of like this. So remakes would include, I guess, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, which is at 15 million. You'd have to have Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which is at, almost 15 million. So let's say that's 30 million in total. Heart Gold Soul Silver and Fire Leaf Green combined would maybe push it up to maybe 40, about 40, I would say, 39, 40 almost, right? Like around that range. Not exactly, but, up there. Unless I'm doing the math wrong here. Like, my brain is just not working with me. Let's just calculate this properly. So 12, plus another 12, puts us at about 24. Plus, what do we have? We had, I think, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl at 15. Plus another 15 or 14. Yeah, about 15, I would say, from Omega Ruby Sapphire. So you're up at 30 million copies at that point. And that's it. And then, if you include, I guess, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, then you'd be up at, 45. So all the general remakes, so Fire Red Leaf Green, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Heart Gold Soul Silver, Omega Ruby Sapphire, and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, all of those are actual remakes. Combined, don't even get to 50 million. Like, you get way more from just regular Pokemon. Like, keep that in mind, right? These two combined almost essentially comes up to 51 million, actually, right? Because you got 24.9200. If you actually do the math on it, you end up with, let's see, 26, 27000. Here we go. So you end up 51.1 million copies, right, of just Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. Meanwhile, the remakes, like I said, if you combine every remake, every single one of them, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl at 15. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire at 15. Boom. If we do, let's see, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I guess, would be 15 as well. That puts us at 45. And then finally, we have, who would it be? I guess, yeah, Fire Red Leaf Green, I guess. Boom. Which was at 57. So all of them combined are about the same. There is a bit of a discrepancy, but point is, they're about the same. And keep in mind, all those remakes came out over the course since 2004. These two were just the last two gens. You know what I mean? These are just the last two generations. So, yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of the video, guys. If you did enjoy it, drop a like down below. Thank you for watching, and sorry for ranting on for a while, but I'll see you guys in the next one.